Avalya Shtinerman, I can't tell you that I know a lot about him, but I was like about 20, I think almost 20 years ago to go and see perhaps something that we'll never see again. And in Bnei Brak, even today, for Hashem, it's not so easy to find anymore what it meant to be living in literally a room and a half. And Chazon Ish 5 and Komalev, thank you. And to be living literally in a room and a half or something, and with almost nothing fancy. From what I recall, the walls white and haven't were never, painted and plastered and pictured and everything else. And it reminds me of the famous story of the Chafetz Chaim, where the Chafetz Chaim was once visited by a wealthy person, and he's passing by, and he looks at the Chafetz Chaim, the way the Chafetz Chaim was living, and it was also a room and a half of some sort with basically svarim and the most basic chairs and table. And he said, he's telling the Chafetz Chaim, where were your living quarters? This is how you're living? And the Chafetz Chaim told him, he said, what do you mean? Where are all your beautiful, objects and sofas and chairs and everything else? And the guy said, what do you mean? Chafetz Chaim, I'm traveling. The Chafetz Chaim told him, I'm also traveling. And if you saw Shtinerman, he was in this world as a traveler. He was here with a mission. He was here, like Benji mentioned actually, that perhaps until he was maybe 75 years old, almost no one ever heard of him. And and it's an amazing thing, not because he wasn't a Talmud, he already wrote Sforim, and he was a very knowledgeable person. But he was a person, to me it always was a lesson, a person here on a mission. And when I'm going to be called on, I'm going to do what I have to do. And boy, did he do. When he felt something was right, he stood up and he did what he felt was right. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it. He was a person in this world. Trust me, I see. It's not easy to be a Rav. Imagine being a Gadol Adar. We all have it easy. He says this, he says that. But he was living, and you saw the way he lived. It wasn't, it was a someone, and in as much as we could take a little bit, he took nothing. He's probably one person, like the Gemara says about Rebbe, that he raised his fingers and he said, Lo nenesim ha'olam hazeh. He's a person that could say that in Bnei Brak, that he was not nene ha'olam hazeh. And I'm going to add one more story that I once heard from my Rebbe. He said this story, Rabbi Daniel said a story from his father-in-law. His father-in-law, I think, was a witness to this story. And it also sheds light on what Rabbi Shtinerman was all about. There was a person shows up in Bnei Brak, and I'm sure it happened many times, and he he's trying to get in, and he said, listen, he's trying to speak to the Gabbayim. There's always, when I went there's always like a long line, and a snail line, a snake line, whatever. You have to wait, you have to be patient. It could take a while. Anyway, this guy shows up, and he says, I must see Rabbi Shtinerman for 1 second. I'm not going to even speak to him. I just want to look at him. And of course the Gabbai, I know that, stop it. Wait in line. Anyway, this person's like bugging, and he's saying, whatever, I don't know what exactly he said, I'll give a donation. He said, please, I just want to look at him, and I'm going to leave. I'm not going to even say a word. He's not going to even see me. Finally, the Gabbai is somewhat convinced. Sometimes you have to know how to be a Gabbai. Anyway, he lets the guy do so. The guy peeks for a second, and starts walking out, and says, I got to catch a flight. So at this point, the Gabbai was like, okay, Tell us the story. What you came in just to be able to look and to leave? Anyway, so this person said, I'll tell you, many years ago, maybe it was 60, 70 years ago, I was in Switzerland. I think that's where Shtinerman actually grew up. He grew up actually he always says he was in a class with boys and girls. So Shtinerman, the Gadol Ador. So he, when he was young, that's the way he was in those classes. Anyway, so he said that years before, one Friday night, late into the night, he walks into the Beis Midrash and he sees that there's a boy that's sitting there and mamish learning with the most incredible sweetness. So he went over to the boy after a while and he said to this boy, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? So he told him. So Shtinerman said, I forget the exact language, but he said something like, I want to be a beacon of light. I want to be something that the Shekhinah, the light of the Shekhinah could reside on. So this person says, I haven't seen Rav Shtinerman, this boy, for years. And then when I came to Eretz Yisrael, I heard that Rav Shtinerman is in Bnei Brak, and he's one of the G'dai Adol. He's the leader. I wanted to see what it means to have the shining light of the Shekhinah residing on someone. That's all I wanted to see. And I saw that a taka happened. And that's all I needed. And he walked out. And this is a miyut shebemiyut, what Shtinerman, of course, was. So we should be zeicha taka that the Rebbeinu should give us leaders, and we should be zeicha also to take whatever we could take from such an incredible person.